Good afternoon, everybody, and let me welcome you with the greetings of the Treaty 7 Indigenous peoples, Oki, Daranastada, Ambawastich, and Tansei. So the budget documents that we received are not nearly as detailed as what we've seen in the past, and the information that was provided during the lockup and embargo period was also pretty thin. So before I say a lot about this budget, I just do need to qualify that it's going to take a little bit of time to dig deeper into what is actually in the budget. There's still many things that we don't know, but at this point, I'm choosing to remain cautiously optimistic. I will say that there was a strong theme, and that was the theme of growth and its challenges. And it's interesting that the budget speech was so focused on growth and challenges and opportunity within the province, yet there's not really much that addresses the growth that Calgary has seen in the past couple of years. We're the fastest growing city in this nation, and there really wasn't a nod to that. So let me give you a few highlights of our takeaway. The education property tax. We now understand that the portion that the government is going to take from Calgary property taxes is going to be up at around 6%. So that means that you're going to see probably an additional $9 or so on your property tax bill to help cover this education tax that the provincial government is seeking. That's above and beyond what has already been budgeted by the city. So this is money that leaves Calgary and goes into a fund provincially and then gets redistributed to all municipalities. And unfortunately, we don't receive our proportionate share back from what we contribute. Now, there was also conversation about tariff supports in this budget, and I really appreciate the fact that this is being recognized and that there is contingency within this budget. But we need to see more clear report for some of the industries that are heavily impacted, like oil and agriculture. Those businesses have their headquarters in our city, and I would really welcome seeing a stronger plan at what we're going to do to protect them if the tariffs do come in. Municipalities have a very big role to play in tariff-proofing our province, and I do hope that we're able to engage directly with the province on how we will protect ourselves against these threats. When it comes to income tax, I was very happy to see that there is an income tax cut at a time when Calgarians are feeling an affordability pinch. That's very supportive. However, I do note that the minister said they are meeting the cost of living, and I have to point out, I don't think we're quite there yet. It's a budget that's stable, but it's certainly not inflation-proofed. Now, economic diversification. I was very happy to hear that the province is recognizing that we need to move on and that we need to understand that oil and gas has always been a core part of our economy, and we can do more. So we are going to be putting money into the Heritage Fund and building a long-term strategy. That's good to hear. We also need to be focused on economic diversification that can come from those savings. We will continue to talk to our provincial counterparts about their contributions to the Prairie Economic Gateway project that we just approved a couple of days ago. This is going to ensure that we are the strongest inland port in North America. This will protect us against supply chain disruption. It will generate 30,000 jobs, many of them in manufacturing, and it will ensure that we are contributing an additional $7 billion to the economy. Now, I have to give full credit where it is due. We frankly feared the worst for our social programs. On our city streets, we know that Calgarians are worried about public safety, and we know that this is in large part due to the issues that people are having with their mental health and addictions. So I'm very grateful for the investments that are being made in that area. But before I can say more on that, I really do need to look at the fine print and understand what's in and what's out. And I also would like to learn a little bit more about the facilities that they're talking about, the compassionate care facility as an example. We need to be engaged as a municipality in these projects. The last time the province had an idea with the supervised consumption site at Sheldon Schumer, they did not engage with us at the beginning. And as a result, we are in a state of limbo about what's going to happen with that facility. So with that, those are the highlights that we have seen in this budget. I'm happy to take any questions that you have. If you could identify yourself by name and outlet, I would sure appreciate that.
Skylar from Global News. Just the thought about property taxes comes on a bill with the city's name on it, of course. And do you see any shifting of blame maybe with the province reducing their income tax to all Albertans, but all of a sudden it's going to see Calgary and then more money's coming out of their pocket on that end?
Well, I think we need to put both things in context. I think it's important that Calgarians and Albertans are going to benefit from a cut to their income taxes. I think we can all agree that is a very good thing. The thing I struggle with is the argument that they are going to increase their investments in education, but it's not clearly explained that they will do that at the expense of property owners and homeowners. So this education tax that they are going to collect from us comes off of your property taxes. And right now, the proposal looks like your property taxes will go up, on average, about $9 a month to cover off the spending they wish to put into education. That will not be clear on a property tax bill, and yes, it will be said that the City of Calgary is charging more than they promised. In fact, it's a promise that we made to you based on the best information we had at that time. The provincial government has now decided they want more out of your property taxes.
Your numbers are significantly different from what the province told us today. So last year, the education property tax from Calgary was $882 million. It says this year it will be $1,037 million. So they told us it's $240 more per year for the median priced house. So that's about $20 more a month. Can you help us understand the difference in the two sets of figures?
I can tell you that we have had to do our own calculations based on the very limited information we've been given. With the information we were provided about the education tax, the average home worth about $700,000, it looks like would see a $9 increase per month. If you have received information that's different, I can't tell you which one is more accurate. That's why we need to dig into these numbers a little bit deeper. It's fairly disappointing that the lockup and embargo session was so incredibly brief, we couldn't ask these questions.
To follow up on that, Mayor, do you think it's time that the city would consider doing more to make it extremely clearer for Calgary property owners what they're paying, where it's going? I know it's on there right now. I just wonder, is there any thought to making it even clearer? If it's two separate pieces of paper or, documents if you're looking online, any thoughts on that?
So each year, we try our best to make sure that Calgarians understand where their property taxes are going. We break down the services that we are providing, and we very clearly state that this proportion is actually going to the province for something they call an education tax. We have also tried to explain repeatedly that the portion that goes to the province simply goes into their general coffers. There's no guarantee it's going to education. This year, at least, they've said they're going to put it towards education. But our biggest problem is we can't stop the collection of the education tax because we are mandated to do so under legislation. I would much prefer that the province collect their own taxes. I would prefer not to be the middle agent that is collecting taxes for them. And to the point that many people have made to us about sending out two separate bills, one for the provincial share and one for municipal, that just costs taxpayers more money. So we can't justify that.
Mayor, obviously the province has had obviously different numbers than what you've calculated here at the City Hall, but the province is saying $239 for Calgarians, $92 for Edmontonians, increasing. I mean, is it fair to see Calgarians almost double the amount of increase in property tax there versus Edmontonians over the next year?
I can tell you what would be fair. If we were able to keep the property taxes that we collect in our city to provide you with the best possible levels of service, to provide you with strong road infrastructure and good road repair, to make sure that our water treatment systems are working well, to make sure that you've got great recreation opportunities. I would love to be able to do all of that with the property taxes that we collect from you. But the fact of the matter is, a big chunk, more than 30%, is going up to the province. And for many, many years, they were not accountable for explaining where that money was going. When you look at the situation Calgary is in, we are giving a much bigger proportion of Calgarians' property taxes to the provincial government than our city to the north. Edmonton is contributing significantly less. We are not getting back what we are contributing. That money is being distributed to other municipalities. I guess you could call it equalization. And it is not fair to our city. It is not fair to the taxpayers of this city.
Mayor, another change, the province is changing the grants in lieu of taxes on Crown properties. It's going from 50% to 75%. The province is saying that's about a $2.6 million increase back to the city of Calgary. I mean, where in context maybe does that put that kind of money in terms of what we've been downloaded?
I am not going to reject $2.6 million. $2.6 million will go a long way to doing good things for Calgarians. So I'm happy that we are going to be getting that payment from the provincial government. But when you consider we have more than $400 million every year offloaded to us, that seems like a drop in the bucket.
Did you get any clarity in terms of the information you were provided in terms of low-income transit pass?
The information that we have right now is that the low-income transit pass funding is protected, that we will be funded to the same level that we were last year. I will remind everyone, however, that the lion's share of funding low-income transit passes falls on the City of Calgary. And I would argue that low income and support for people that are low income is a responsibility of the provincial government. Yet, it is your local government that is covering the lion's share.
So now that you know that figure, given Calgary's population continues to grow, I would imagine some of those folks might qualify. Does that mean that council needs to find some more money?
I can tell you that the low-income transit pass is in greater demand than ever before. We know that people are struggling with affordability. We also know that about 275 people a day are moving to our city, and a proportion of those folks will need to access the low-income transit pass. So council will be in a difficult position again, where we are going to have to determine how much we need to contribute, because the contribution from the provincial government, although I'm grateful to get it, has remained static. And yet, the need for this transit pass has grown.
Basically, what you're saying is if it doesn't keep up with inflation and population growth, it's a cut.
If it doesn't keep up with inflation and population growth, it is underfunding.
Mayor, the LGFF has increased this year by $31 million, total $255 million for Calgary. Any reaction to that increase?
So the funding we receive for infrastructure projects is affectionately known as the LGFF, the local government funding framework, something like that, financing framework. So the LGFF has been vastly underfunded, and we have pointed that out as a city. Alberta municipalities, our advocacy group has pointed out the same thing. So I'm very happy to see that there's an increase to that funding. It will help us get infrastructure projects done. But that whole fund is still sorely underfunded. And so until it keeps pace with growth and inflation, it's simply not going to be enough.
We have time for two more. I just have a question on the money allocated for transit. I know they spoke about the transit line to the airport and things like that, but there wasn't anything clarified about the green line. Just overall, what was your kind of reaction to what the budget talked about for transportation?
So when we made our budget ask in the fall, we requested $10 million to do the work on the Blue Line extension up to the airport, which is a very significant project that both the provincial government and we believe in. We received half of that, and so that's better than not receiving anything, but there's not really a lot of talk about any other transit funding, and I think it's really important to make sure we can get that clarified. I can also tell you that we are still waiting on our application for regional transit funding to be submitted up to the federal government. It is the responsibility of the province to submit that request for funding, and from what I can tell, it has not gone out yet, and that is incredibly worrisome. The timeline on that is very short, and we need them to get the ask in, because as you all know, we cannot negotiate directly with the federal government anymore.
One more. Overall, would you say that there was a lot of underfunding for Calgary in general that the municipality will have to pick up the slack for, or do you think it was better than what you expected?
If you consider that we could have faced more cuts, if you consider that there might have been lack of investment in mental health and addiction supports, if you consider that low-income transit pass funding could have been cut completely, I'm grateful that those things remain in this budget. I have to be honest about that. But I can tell you, as the economic engine of this province, I do not believe that a fair investment has been made in our city at this time. Okay. Thank you, everybody.